is 4 years enough time to build tech debt? Like I tell you, that's plenty of time.
I'm gonna triple down with techniques to grow, where CTOs share the tales and the comments. So start a few big names and innovation time for how many CTOs will share their stories untold.
So can I ask you about Dropbox? You were at Dropbox and Groupon. It's kind of quite dual question for both of them. Talk about two organizations that had hyper growth. I mean, I saw Groupon from the outside as a consumer. It was a cultural phenomena, right? And Dropbox, I don't think was as much of a cultural phenomena, but I think was explosive growth, and then like very technically complex, I would imagine, because you've got all this data. Um, and like, tell us about those experiences.
Particularly like the hypergrowth phase.
Sure, or any part of it, but I just think it's, not everybody gets the opportunity to be on a ride like a Groupon or a Dropbox
Oh,
ride.
it's super fun. I highly
Um,
recommend
I
it.
mean, I mean, I would imagine Groupon grew like 10,000x in a year
It
or something
it
like that. I mean, it was
it
enormous.
probably did. I mean, it grew. Let's see, where do I sort of begin there? I mean, we could talk about building out these teams, and I think Groupon and Dropbox had different approaches to building out teams, and what I found worked well in both cases was that method uh, was very much aligned to the strategy and the mission and how the company wanted to operate. So, for example, Groupon was a rather Amazon culture. Like a lot of once it sort of gained traction, was growing. A lot of the Amazon, a lot of the leadership at Groupon was very Amazonian, and it lended itself well. Yes, we had this deal of the day phenomenon, which was our first kind of hook that really grew the company enormously. But the overall like strategy was build out a series of secondary products. Okay, sure. Nail salons and restaurants, then travel, then maybe physical products, then experiences. And it led itself to a more two pizza team GM model everywhere. And so the hiring strategy there was find a leader, have them build the team. And so it was very distributed. Um, It had the trade-offs you would sort of expect from that in terms of like a very heterogeneous culture, to put it sort of specifically. 4 years enough time to build tech debt? Like I tell you, that's plenty of time. Particularly, we have engineering, independent engineering teams all sort of building out separate set of products where speed was super important. But we had mechanisms in place, and the engineering leadership would come together all the time to understand where exactly we needed to put something together and call it a platform component, or where we're just going to let it rip. And then Dropbox was quite different. It was growing very quickly, but the nature of Dropbox needed to be secure. It needed to be private, right? Drew Houston, the founder of Dropbox, would say, your house is burning down. What you go back in to get, it's your kids, your pets, and your family photos. And Dropbox kind of has one of those. And so it really set the culture there around security, privacy, getting it right, never lose a bit of data was super important. So as you built the engineering teams at Dropbox, that is sort of what we focused on when it came to the cultural aspects of the hiring process, the behavioral aspects of it. Um, so yeah, both were very, very different, and I was sort of struck by how they matched the way they tried to grow with what they were trying to build as a company.
At Groupon, was there a fairly thick platform layer for all those two pizza teams to work on top of? Or was there a lot of duplicate
No,
stuff going on?
I mean my judgment was no, and maybe some former Groupon colleagues will hear this and give me a hard time about it. I remember, and this is sort of a tongue-in-cheek sort of joke, like your platform, like there, you would file a if you're a team and you needed a database, you would file a Jira ticket, and the ops team would respond back with an IP address, and it was just an image of a host with a MySQL database on it, and that was it. We had an ops team that was managing data centers. We had an SRE team that was small but mighty, but largely it was pretty much a bunch of startups. We had some uh, platform teams that owned, let's say, like the the web framework, for example. Um, so early on, it was a monolithic Rails application, and we slowly moved it over to like a SOA style node based Express web thing. So we had a small team that was managing that, but it was pretty light. It was pretty light. Dropbox on the other hand was pretty significant. Maybe a third to a half of the engineering team was what you might call platform, which is understandable, right? They were managing and implementing their own massively scalable distributed block storage system, massively scalable metadata and structured data infrastructure and things like that.
I would imagine Groupon, all those startups in Groupon, they must have shared some things. They shared accounts, they shared checkout, a handful of things like that. Must have been shared between
They shared
between
a
travel and nails and cars and whatever else you guys were selling.
um
Or no, was it all were they all independent?
it was complicated. It was complicated. I mean, yeah, I think accounts were shared. I mean, one of the things that happened at Groupon was it grew very rapidly, and one of our early on we tried to internationalize the Rails monolith, and internationalizing something like that is hard, particularly when you had no very little there to build upon. And so the strategy became, you remember all these Groupon clones? Like, let's just go country by country and buy the Groupon clone. And so you ended up with multiple
Wow.
platforms. Um,
Wow.
and so yeah, that's why I'm kind of like, how do I answer the question about single account
No.
system? No, there was the European one, there was the Japanese one, there was the North American one, there was the South American one,
Whereas
right?
Dropbox was far more cohesive, it sounds like.
Dropbox was very cohesive. Yes, yeah, for sure.
I think it's interesting, Greg, that you're kind of talking about how quickly you can get technical debt, and especially like it sounds like with the Groupon approach, of course, like effectively it's like all a whole bunch of separate little startups all just move in as fast as they possibly
Yeah.
could. Um, do you feel like at kind of the senior engineering leadership level, what where we're if there's more than if there's more than two teams, like you're already like in you're offset away from the choices they're making. Um, what do you think the role or how do you think a senior engineering leader should try to address systems to slow down the creation of technical debt,
Yeah, yeah.
systems, tech culture. What's our when we're wearing our CTO, our VP of engineering hat, what do we do?
Yeah, it is not easy. Um, I don't have any magic for that either. I think it is understanding where the company is trying to go. Like, is there a reason? Okay, is there a reason why we had different authentication systems for different parts of the world? The answer was yes, because we decided to take an approach of acquiring them. Like they didn't build these new authentication systems once they had joined. But you need a plan to figure out, okay, where is that running into problems, or where is that either going to slow us down or be a burden to the business going forward? In Groupon's case, the burden was North America was running really quickly, building features and products. And meanwhile, international was going slow. They were just fewer engineers there. So you would look at, okay, where can we get more engineering velocity? And for example, what we had decided was we're going to create a middle layer, like an API layer, that will then abstract out the nonsense below it. So while we had different authentication systems, inventory management systems, order management systems, customer service systems, we had one global mobile app, one website that worked globally, right? And so that was, for example, what we ended up deciding was the best way to get the velocity, because what we were seeing in North America was a lot of product iteration, a lot of product experimentation was getting us a lot of good growth, and we wanted to make sure that that was easily transferable to other parts of the company, other parts of the business.
Well, thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Greg, and we'll probably maybe have you back sometime. It'd be great to kind of catch up on whatever you're up to next, and more learnings will always be fun.
That was awesome. Great.
This episode of How Many CTOs Does It Take podcast was edited by Saffron Hefta-Gaub. Our theme song was AI generated by Brad. Please follow us on all the social media platforms at How Many CTOs Pod. You can find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, TikTok, and Patreon, or at our website at howmanyctospod.com. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice. Thanks for listening.